Hello, everyone. Today we are joined by Maria. Maria is the founder of Handful of Thoughts, a resource dedicated to helping moms take control of their time and money. She is a full-time teacher, wife, and mom to an 18-month-old daughter. At the age of 30, Maria was mortgage-free after paying off a $342,000 mortgage in less than 5 years. Since then, she has adopted a financial freedom mindset and is sharing with other moms how to do the same. Today, Maria will be speaking to us about how to develop the financial freedom mindset. Welcome, Maria.
Hi, thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, of course. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the financial freedom mindset and what people can learn about this?
Absolutely. So the financial freedom mindset, it's essentially what happens when we start to align our time and our money to what our values are. And so a lot of time we just kind of go through life without thinking what we're doing. We're in that rat race. We're not thinking about how we're spending our money or even how we're spending our time. We can always earn more money, but we can't earn more time. That's that finite resource. So it's a shift in mindset so that your life now starts to begin to resemble your ideal life, and without having to wait until traditional retirement age or you achieve full financial freedom, essentially.
Nice. So what would you say would be the first piece of advice that you would give to people who might be feeling like they're kind of stuck in a financial rut right now?
So right now is a great time because it doesn't seem like it, but it's a great time. So usually in order to get the financial freedom mindset, we have to have some kind of a catalyst. There has to be something that kind of shocks us out of our ways. So for me, my catalyst at the age of 32 and a half, as weird as that sounds, I had this epiphany and I thought, if I'm going to work till like traditional retirement age of 65, I'm going to have to work for as long as I've currently been alive. And that just sounded like so depressing to me and it felt so heavy. I was on this path. I was trying to reach financial freedom. And I was working so much that it was eroding my relationships with my friends and family because all I wanted to do was work, work, work. So I was on this fast pace because I didn't want to work till 65. So I had to just, give her right now. And all of a sudden it came to me and it was just like, this is not going to work. I needed something to change. And I wasn't independently wealthy. I couldn't just quit my job, but I did have control over my mindset. So right now there's a lot that we can't control. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of things that are limiting us. We can't go out of our house. A lot of things are closed, but it's one thing we can control is our mindset. And so right now is the perfect time, a catalyst to start thinking about the financial freedom mindset, because so much has been stripped away from us. So much things have been closed in our freedom. So all of a sudden, if we can start thinking about, okay, if everything that we've kind of been taken away from us, what do we actually miss and what has aligned with our values? Because then when things start opening up again, we can start adding in those pieces that really align with that financial freedom mindset. And we can really start to make that shift now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I found even like being at home, I'm not even spending as much as I used to. I mean,
It's
my
hard when
income's
there's nothing
been,
to do.
yeah, exactly. I mean, my income's been reduced since I'm not at work right now. But, I found that my expenses are becoming less because I'm figuring out ways to kind of get my mind around, okay, is that actually something I really need? Or is that just something I want?
Absolutely. And so one of the very first things I do when I talk to people about this is we talk about like really simple exercise, just kind of close your eyes. I mean, you can do it now or don't do it now, but get them to close their eyes and start thinking about, okay, if money's no issue, if time's no issue, what does your perfect day look like? Like, what does that ideal feel like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? Like, what are you doing with your time? And really going through that exercise of, okay, I wake up in the morning. Maybe there's waking up to no alarm. I hear a lot of people right now going, it's so nice to not have to wake up to an alarm. Right? So things like, what is it, is the coffee brewing? What do you smell? What do you taste? Like, who are you spending your time with? And it's interesting when you start looking at that and taking some time even to write it down, then you start to see, wow, that's what a perfect day looks like to me. And then we start to say, okay, how can we start making today look like that more perfect day? What are some changes we need to make? What are some shifts that we need to make? And all of a sudden, today starts to become a lot more bearable because we're slowly getting to that place. We don't have to, race to retirement or race to financial independence. We can kind of be on that like slower path towards that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just when you were saying that, it made me think about, I read a book maybe about 2 months ago. It was a book by Dan Lok and it was called FU Money. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or not,
I think I
but
have, yeah.
in the book, he kind of says like, find out what your financial freedom number is. And a lot of people think that in order to be financially free, you have to earn millions and millions of dollars. But when you actually break down what you actually want and need in your life, that number is actually like staggeringly less than what you might think it is.
It's absolutely. And so they've done tons of studies on this, and they've done some studies that found that anything above $70,000 of annual income doesn't add anything more to your happiness, because that can survive your basic needs. So there's people think, and then when they also did another study where they looked at everybody and they asked, okay, how much do you think you need to, hit financial freedom? And everybody, no matter what their income level was, no matter what their lifestyle was, always estimated at least $1 million more than they actually needed.
Yeah.
So part of this step is, so now that we've kind of defined, okay, what does our ideal day look like? The next step is to kind of do a time audit and looking at what are we spending our time with, because it's about time and money. So what are we spending our time doing? Are the things we're spending our time doing, are they adding to our day, or is it really kind of draining us? I mean, for a lot of people, their jobs sometimes can be very draining, feel very heavy. So it's about, again, if you think back, even that FU book, the FU Money, it talks about having money aside. So all of a sudden, if you're having a bad day at work, you can just say, you know what, F you, I have money for the next month while I figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And so really looking at our time, and then we look at our money and see what are we spending our money on? And then you can figure out, what does it take for me to be happy in that? Like, what's my annual expenses? And easy numbers, simple numbers is multiplying that by 25. And that tells you how much money you would need to achieve financial freedom or financial independence. And oftentimes that number is a lot lower than you think.
Yeah. Another book that I really like around like finances and like the mindset of being like wealthy and having that is The Science of Getting Rich. I'm not sure if you've read that. It's by Wallace Wattles. And pretty much,
I don't think I've read that.
I would suggest reading it. It's a fantastic book. It kind of talks about the mindset of getting, having that rich mentality as well. And it kind of talks about like, it's your right to be rich. I mean, there's no saving grace in being poor. It's better to be rich, because then when you're rich, you can help other people. And when you can help other people, you make the whole world better. Now in that as well, he kind of talks about why it's important to be rich around like the mindset. And when you think about why you want to be rich and you put a strong reason behind it, you can really start to focus on, okay, here's what I can do to start getting myself to that number. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got yourself to that financial freedom number and that helped you achieve that financial freedom?
So I think oftentimes it shifts. So for me, again, that catalyst was, working too much. And I started to realize that when was I happiest? When was I kind of in that zone and just loving it? And it was, for me, it was always travel related. And it wasn't necessarily like going to see new places. It was that feeling. So when I'm traveling, there's no other demands on my time. I've often set apart like budget, so I'm not thinking and stressing out about money. Often things are paid for in advance. So it's that unencumbered lightness feeling of not like, to-do lists of I have all these things to do with work and laundry and deadlines. And, oftentimes I'm going to places where I don't have a cell phone or, internet. And it's just that lightness feeling of having not so many demands on my time. So then I started thinking, okay, when I get home, there was often that crash, right? So, okay, back to reality. It's not an adventure every day and things like that. So it was like, how can I start to have that adventure feeling, that lightness feeling at home? And that was about trying to make that shift. And that became really important to me as far as having control over my time. And that's when I realized, yeah, my job seemed enjoyable. And I mean, I always told myself, I like my job. That's why I'm going to work so much. And I worked multiple jobs at once. But it was like, but in reality, if I stopped and thought about that, it was actually my time that I liked a lot more. Just being able to be home and maybe read a book in the sunlight, not having to come home when it's dark, go to work when it's dark, things like that. Now, as a parent, it's changed again. It's shifted again, right? So for us right now, my husband's a shift worker. I'm a teacher. So we don't have family dinners together all the time. And so that's been a big catalyst is we want to see our child grow up. We want to be able to spend time with her. We want to have family dinners every night. So we're not there yet, but we can slowly shift to get to that point. This pandemic, as weird as it sounds, has been good for that because now we're home a lot more. So we are having family dinners more. And so now's a good time to reflect, is this what financial freedom feels like? Maybe not in the money situation, but that mindset becomes even stronger. And you're absolutely right. You need to have a very strong why behind your doing something because it will propel you. Money is one thing, time is one thing, but if you have that strong inner desire, that is what's going to keep you going when times get tough, because times will get tough. We're in tough times right now, but if you have that beacon of why that is so important and strong to you and intentional, then it will definitely keep you going. And when you talk about the idea of being rich, I think we can also look at what does rich mean, right? Rich
Yeah.
for some people can mean a lot of money, but we look at some countries where they are making not as much money as we are making here, but yet they are so rich with feelings and they're rich with relationships, and there's so much more than just necessarily money. So a lot of it is, again, controlling our time and having all of that piece together. I do love what you said about helping others. I think that's a very important piece to it as well. And being able to do that is really important as well. So again, it's not about, Scrooge McDuck piling this massive pile of money to go swimming in. It's about really, again, aligning that your time and your money with what you value.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I'm glad you brought that up about like the spiritual, mental, and happiness part of it as well, because, rich does mean different things to different people. And if you can be rich in every area of your life, I think that's an excellent way to kind of be. If you can control that mindset and really focus on, okay, well, I'm in this situation. It may suck, but what can I get out of it? Right? And how can
Exactly.
I make this better moving forward? I was looking on your website as well. You mentioned a little bit something about the busy trap. I know you kind of touched on it a little bit already, but for the people who are watching this, I know, especially in my regular life before the pandemic, like everything just seemed like I was in the busy trap. Always like going, and never taking time to reflect. Can you tell people a little bit about the busy trap and your experience with it and how maybe you overcame it?
Absolutely. So the busy trap is, it's part of our North American society. It's this pride in being busy. And it's oftentimes, and for some reason, we have this one-upmanship of being like, well, I work 60 hours a week. Well, yeah, well, I work 65 hours a week. And it's like this badge of honor to be so busy and not have any time for yourself. We look at vacation rates and how many people don't take their vacation a year. Maybe, like their 2 weeks paid vacation, they're not taking it, and it's accumulating over years and years, right? Because it's this constant drive. Well, I have to do this and I have to work, and not necessarily, we also see it with this whole, there's a big push for side hustles, which I'm a huge fan of, as far as, pursuing passion projects and things like that. But again, it becomes, well, I can do 6 side hustles and I'm constantly hustling and there's no time for a break. And you get stuck in this trap because everyone else around you is doing it too. So you think that's normal, right? So I see this a lot as a teacher, because I'm seeing other teachers that are, working how many more hours and doing all this extra work. So there's almost this unwritten pressure that I've got to do that too, right? There's always, I've got to be part of that and I've got to keep going because that's what everyone else is doing. And that's what that profession means. When in reality, if we start to just stop and look, you realize I'm not enjoying any of this. It is a trap. You're stuck in this. And so looking for opportunities to break out of that trap, and so it's opportunities. It's also looking for relationships. So I think it was Jim Rohn that said, we are the average of the 5 people we surround ourselves with, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
we're always surrounding ourselves with people that are this absolutely go, 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 never stop, we essentially start to emulate that as well. And I'm not against productivity. I'm very productive in my life as well. I'm, again, still multiple jobs right now, but again, they're passion projects. So I just love it, right? But it's, who are you surrounding yourself with, and start seeking out those opportunities. And right now it's tough because we're stuck in our homes during this pandemic, but there's ways. So podcasts can be a way that you surround yourself with people, right? If you're listening to a regular podcast that aligns with your values, all of a sudden you start to think like that. I know my husband and I, oftentimes we get almost stuck in this echo chamber of what we're thinking, and we surround ourselves with people that are like-minded. And then all of a sudden somebody who is, different, or gets stuck in that busy trap, and it just seems so foreign to us. Like, why would you want to do that anymore? Right? Like, there's another way, and we're trying, but they're stuck, and that's fine. But really think about, again, what are you spending your time and money with, right? So it could be reading books. It could be interacting. There's a ton of webinars right now going on. This summit is great as far as talking about mindset, but think about, what are you surrounding your time with? Because that's really going to make a difference as far as breaking you out of that busy trap. Right now it's again, we're seeing it as well, because people are like, well, I'm not as productive, I'm at home. Don't feel bad about that. That's okay, right? With everything going on, we can't control it. Just continue to make progress right now, because it can be so hard, and this is a very hard time. So just, give yourself some grace and keep going, right? Seek out those opportunities, get some personal growth, even if it's just, hey, I'm going to listen to a new podcast. You're here at this summit. That's really good. Just make those slow shifts, not trying to change everything at once. If we do try to make this massive shift, it's never going to work, right? If we do this with our diet, if we do this with physical activity, and it never works. But if we slowly make those changes, it has a big impact. So if we think about, how to boil a frog, if we have a boiling water and we put the frog in there, it's going to jump right out. But if we put it in cold water and we slowly heat it up, all of a sudden the frog doesn't really know that it's been cooked, right? So
Yeah.
just really kind of go through that slow process, and you'd be surprised. It may not make a difference today, it may not make a difference tomorrow, but if you're tracking that progress after a week, a month, a year, it's amazing how much progress you can make.
Yeah, I totally agree. It just made me think of when I did P90X the last time. Tony Horton, he says, Rome was not built in a day, and neither was your body.
Absolutely.
It's just the progressive doing what you have to do day after day. And a lot of people, I think, when they look at, oh my God, I want to get financially free, but it seems like this big, huge thing. Don't look at it like that, I think. Try and look at it in like small, manageable chunks. What can I do today to make my life better tomorrow? Right?
Absolutely. And one of my favorite sayings is, what's the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Like that's one of my favorite sayings I constantly talk with about people when I'm talking to people about this. And so, today the step might be, you know what? I've never even thought about what my ideal day looks like. So I'm going to do this exercise. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to go through that. Great. That's one step. And you've done something today and you're making progress, right? Maybe tomorrow you write it down. So you can kind of go through that step. I've got an action guide that kind of goes through those steps. And again, if we think about where we are today, where we got to today didn't happen overnight, right? There is years of build up to where that is. So it's going to be maybe years, weeks, months, to change that. So we have to kind of, again, give ourselves grace and just make those slow changes every single day. And you'd be surprised when you start to track it over a longer period of time, what kind of change can happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. One other question I had for you, since a lot of people in this time right now are being laid off, they may have lost a lot of money in the stock market. Maybe they just lost their job entirely. What kind of advice would you give to those people who maybe now more than ever are feeling a lack of a financial mindset? They're kind of maybe in defensive mode, like thinking, what am I going to do next? How am I going to pay my bills? What advice would you give to those people?
So first and foremost, I would say just breathe, like just stop, give yourself, again, a lot of this is out of our control, right? So oftentimes we get very, you're right, defensive, and we start to blame ourselves. And there was nothing that we did to get into this position, right? If you lost money in the stock market, you could have been in very, conservative investments, but the stock market crashed over 30% in one day. There's nothing that you did to get to that point. It will come back. I have faith in that. But it's really about, it is easy to kind of get into that Debbie Downer or just kind of want to cycle into that hole. But now is a great time, better time more than any, is to look at, okay, let's look at our budget. Let's look at our expenses. Let's see where our money is going. Governments have a lot of programs right now as far as stimulus programs and things to access. So looking at how can you get help? There's no shame in getting help, especially right now. So looking at how can you get help, both financially, maybe mentally, maybe it's just reaching out and having to talk to somebody, but really figure out, okay, what is my base that I need to kind of survive? We're in survival mode right now, and that's okay. But figure out what that base is. And then when things do start to turn, try to keep in survival mode for a little bit, because then all of a sudden we can start to build up a bit of buffer. Obviously if going into this, it would be great if we all had emergency funds or we had recession-proof jobs or whatever, but that's not reality. So really give yourself some grace, take stock of where we are right now. And okay, you know what? Maybe I'm not working, I'm staying home. Well, this could be an opportunity, right? A lot of people always are like, oh, if I had more time, I'd do this. So if you had more time, if I do this, what is this? And maybe take some time to start doing that and start pursuing that now. There are a lot of things to do and learn that are free right now. A lot of programs are opening up that don't cost anything. So kind of take advantage of that time and look for that silver lining as you're kind of going through that. But make sure that your basics are taken care of, and then go from there. And again, don't be scared to ask for help, whether it's government assistance programs, whether it's deferring your mortgage, talking to your landlord, whatever that may be, to kind of help ease the pressure. I really believe this is a short-term kind of pain situation, and it will turn around, and just really setting yourself up so when it does turn around, we're not going to flip the switch back on. Let's kind of maintain this a little bit, because now all of a sudden we can build ourselves some buffer.
Amazing. What can people start doing to start saving today? Even if they are on reduced income, what can they do to start saving? What advice would you give them in that case?
So the first thing I would do is I would go online and look for a high interest savings account. So different countries have different ones. I know in Canada, I think we can get 2% right now in a high interest savings account. I think in America, it's closer to maybe like 1%, which is fine. But you want to figure out where you're going to put that money. And then make a plan. If it's, you know what, I would usually spend $5 on coffee, so I'm going to put $5 in there. Even if it's just $5 you put in your savings account, guess what? You are now creating a story that you are the person who saves. Even if it's just $5 a week, you are now the person who saves money. You are changing your identity. And I'm trying to think who wrote it, but Atomic Habits is the book. And he talks about that. Every time we make a habit or change our actions, we are putting a vote to say we are that type of person. So if it's $5 a week, great. You have $20 at the end of the month that you've saved. At the end of the year, you're going to have that much more money. So don't think you have to save these massive amounts all the time. Just, $5 here. Maybe it's every time you think about it, or you create, kind of a trigger for it. Every time I check my social media, I'm going to put $1 into savings, whatever that may be. But don't think it has to be a big amount. Just put slow amounts every little bit, because again, it's going to add up over time. If we tried to save all of a sudden, $5,000 today, it's not going to work. But if we made a plan to say, I'm going to save $5 today or $5 this week, eventually we're going to get to $5,000 and it's going to feel really good. So just make those small steps. First step, open up that account and transfer money into it right away. Even if it's just $5, create a reminder on your phone that goes off at 3 p.m. every Tuesday or every day. And when that reminder goes off, transfer some money into your savings account. It just makes it that easy. If you are still working, do that as soon as you get paid. So as soon as you get paid, transfer money into your savings account and you'll never see it. And you won't miss it because we will adapt. Parkinson's law says that work fills to the time that it's allotted. So I've written a lot about this, is how it relates to money. Our spending will fill as much money as we have available. So if we have available in our checking account, if we only have $100, we'll spend $100. But if we take that $5 out, now only have 95, we'll find a way to survive on 95. Yeah. So really, that savings account, make it separate from your checking account, make it in a separate bank account, make it difficult to access. So you're less likely to go in there and pull money out. Make it easy to put money in, but make it difficult, create that extra barrier so it doesn't pull out as easy.
Yeah. And I do something similar to that, or I do that exact thing. And what I always tell people, I'm in Canada as well. So I always tell people, open up a tax-free savings account if you can, because you can't access that online. So you can't access that through your debit card. You'll have to actually go into a branch or something to get that money out. So if you can transfer that money into an account where you don't have access to it to withdraw online or using your debit card or something, then that's an even better place to put your money. Because not only is it going to grow, because usually tax-free savings accounts have a little bit more of a higher interest. Once you get a sustainable amount, you could even think about locking it into like a GIC or something like that. So that way you increase that money and it's tax-free, which is even better.
Yeah, and absolutely. And so a lot of times when we talk about emergency funds, the tax-free savings account can be a really good vehicle for your emergency fund as well. Because as it builds up, we can pull that out once a year, or you can pull it out almost twice a year. You can't put it in that year, but the following year you can put it back in. So you're not losing any of that room. So that's a really good vehicle as well. Absolutely. That TFSA is such a great vehicle for that, because you're not getting taxed on any of the growth. You can pull it out in an absolute emergency, but then put it in the following year.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think right now the maximum is about 64,500 in Canada. I'm not 100% certain, but it's somewhere up around there. It's a little over 60,000. So if you haven't started a TFSA yet, I would strongly suggest you start one. It's a great savings vessel for you. A really great way to kind of maximize your money without, getting taxed on it too.
Absolutely.
Now, Maria, if you could give one piece of advice, if someone said they had, 2 minutes with you and you could give them one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would say make a plan to take one step of action a day. And so whether it's right that night, the night before, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow, or the next day in the morning, first thing in the morning, if that works better for you, this is what I'm going to do today that's going to get me closer to my goals. So one small step, because oftentimes they seem insurmountable and we get stuck. And even making that one small step, again, opening that savings account, transferring $5 in, that one small step can often, again, be the catalyst and get that ball rolling. And all of a sudden you start to feel that, you know what, I did productive. If all I did was that one small step first thing in the morning or at some point in my day, if nothing else goes right that day, at the end of the day, you've still done that one thing. So make a plan to make that one small step a day.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I blog over at Handful of Thoughts. So it's just handfulofthoughts.com. And I'm on most of the social media channels at Thoughts Handful. So you can find me there as well. I have written about the financial freedom mindset. I have a financial freedom mindset action guide that kind of walks you through how to achieve it. And it is available for free on my website. If you go to handfulofthoughts.com/FFM for financial freedom mindset, it'll be set up there, and we can definitely connect through that.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much for taking the time today, Maria. I think this information is going to help a lot of people, especially get their mindset focused on, saving and building that financial freedom mindset. So I really appreciate you taking the time today.
No problem. I'm glad I could share, and hopefully this kind of helps people, get them going and making some action changes.
Thank you so much.